These are some application problems back from chapter 2. I skipped them on purpose because they're very difficult to do without systems. Systems of equations make these problems so much easier. These are commonly referred to as mixture problems. They sound very confusing, but this chart and systems of equations make it much easier to use to get that solution. So example 1 says a chemistry teacher needs 10 liters, some liters are like gallons, 10 liters of a 20% saline solution. So 20% saline is like salt. That's kind of like a strength. When you buy solution for your contacts or hydrogen peroxide or anything like that, vinegar, it's diluted to a certain percentage. So that's what it means by 20% saline solution. That's the strength of the saline, how much salt is in that solution. He has a bottle of 5% saline, so a little weaker, and a bottle of 25% saline, which is a little too strong. How much of each does he need to mix together to produce that 20% solution? So this is kind of like mixing two paint colors. If you have white and blue and you're trying to mix them together a certain way to get a certain color, it's the same idea. We're going to be mixing together the 5% and the 25% in a particular way to get 10 liters of a 20% strength solution. So it sounds very confusing. This chart is what your textbook uses to explain these problems, and it makes it a lot easier to work through. So there's 4 rows and 4 columns. The first box in the top left we're not going to use. That's just kind of our structure. You have the strength, which is your percentage, and you have an amount, which in this case is your liters. Then you always are going to have what I call thing 1 and thing 2. Kind of like Dr. Seuss, thing 1 and thing 2. Thing 1 in this case is the 5% saline. And thing 2 is your 25% saline. Kind of your X and your Y, your thing 1 and your thing 2. And then you have your goal or your total. In that last column, your goal or your total. And then this last row is for what we call the mixture. So if you can set up this chart successfully, you can pull the equations off this chart and it makes working the problem a lot easier. They're not easy problems, but it makes it easier if you set up this chart to kind of help you get those equations. So we have the strength, the amount, and the mixture. We know that our goal strength, what we're trying to get is a 20% saline, which we always write percentages as decimals. If you do percent divided by 100, that is your decimal. So we have 5% saline, which is 0.05, 25% saline, which is 0.25, and our goal is to get a 20% saline. Your amount of thing 1 and thing 2 is the part we don't know. I don't know how much of one or how much of the other I need, but I know my total goal is to have 10 liters. So your amount is in liters, your strength is in percentage, your thing 1 and your thing 2 amount are what we're trying to figure out, and then you have your goal of 10 liters. So all we're doing here is pulling the information out of the word problem and putting it into a chart in a particular way. And once we do this once and you try it again, you'll kind of get used to how this sets up. Your next step for that bottom row is to what I call multiply down. You're going to multiply down. So 0.5 times x is 0.05x. 0.25, so we're multiplying. 0.25 times y is 0.25y. And 0.20 times 10, let's actually work that out. So 0.20 times 10 gives us 2. So that's what I call multiply down. You'll have to remember that step. You put in the information in the middle 2 rows, and you multiply down for that last row. From there, we're going to create equations out of what we're looking at. So after you multiply down, let's write these in steps. I know this gets confusing. So the first thing you want to do is fill in the chart. The second thing you want to do, oh, you can't see that, fill in your chart. The second thing you want to do is multiply down. And then the last thing you want to do is what I call add across. Add across. The first row is not really needed. You're going to add across in this middle row and the last row. So we're going to add across here and here. I want to make a note, add across. So we know the amount of thing 1 plus the amount of thing 2 equals our total amount 10. It's also true that the strength times the amount plus the other strength times its amount is going to equal the strength times the amount here, the goal. So that is how we get our 2 equations. I hope I gave myself enough room here. If not, I'll get a scratch sheet of paper. So I get 2 equations from adding across. The first one is x plus y equals 10. And the second one is 0.05x plus 0.25y equals 2. Those are my 2 equations. These are generally set up in standard form. So we're going to use the elimination method to get our answer. We're going to use the elimination method to get our answer. If you do not like working with decimals before we start, if you do not like working with decimals, we can multiply that bottom equation by 100 to get rid of those decimals. So we'll still have x plus y equals 10. Then that would be 5x plus 25y equals 200. So if you want to kill the decimals like we did in chapter 2, you're more than welcome to do that. Now we're going to use the elimination method. We can choose to eliminate the x values or the y values. Here the x values would be a little bit easier because the 5 is much smaller than 25. So I'm going to take that top equation, I'm going to multiply by 5, and I'm also going to make it a negative. So it's going to be a negative 5 so that they're the same number with opposite signs. Then I'll distribute. Then I'm going to write it again to the side, negative 5x, not plus, sorry, let me fix that. Negative 5x minus 5y equals negative 50. And then the second equation will stay the same, 5x plus 25y equals 200. So the first thing we did was kill the decimal, and then we used the elimination method. Now we're going to stack and add. The x's cancel. That's going to give us 20y equals, and then adding those together gives us 150. We'll divide both by 20. And 150 divided by 20 is 7.5. Unfortunately, we still get a decimal, but that's okay. It's not too bad at a decimal. So there's one answer. Now we need to go back to our 2 equations. The second one we don't want to work with. Let's work with the first one. So with that first equation, let's plug in the answer we have. So x plus 7.5 equals, is it 10? Yes. Then we'll subtract 7.5. and we should get x equals 2.5. So you're going to have two answers. You've got the 5% saline, which if you look, we made that x. The 5% saline is x, so that's 2.5 liters. And then the 25% saline, which we made y, you can see we made that y, and we got 7.5 liters. So those are your two answers. So again, we set up the chart. The chart sets up the same every time. It's just a matter of what numbers you fill in here. It's always going to be x and y in the middle here. You're always going to multiply down, and you're always going to add across on those second two rows. Go ahead and pause the video. Try example 2. Take your time. It is going to take a little while. If you need to watch this part of the video again, you can. But pause the video and try example 2. Example 2 is very similar. It says the pharmacist needs 12 liters of 9% hydrochloric acid, so that's the strength. She has a bottle of 4% acid and a bottle of 12% acid. How much of each must she mix together to get that 9% hydrochloric acid? So we're going to use this chart, and I'll have this empty chart for you on your test so you can remember to use it. That first box is not anything we need, it's just to set up our labels. Remember, we're always going to have thing 1 and thing 2, and then we're going to have our goal or our total. In this example, it's a goal. Thing 1 is the 4% acid, and thing 2 is the 12% acid. You're always going to put the strength or percentage here, and then you're going to put the amount, and then what I call the mixture, or combined. They call them mixture problems, so we usually call it mixture there. Alright, so we're filling in our chart with what we have. The first percentage is 0.04 for 4%. The second percentage is 0.12 for 12%. And the goal here is 0.09 for 9%. Remember to take your percentage and divide it by 100. From there we have our amounts. That's the part we don't know, x and y. We're trying to get a goal of 12. Now we're going to multiply down. We're going to multiply those. That's going to give us 0.04x. We're going to multiply those. That's going to give us 0.12y. We're going to multiply those, which I actually have to use a calculator for that one. I actually have to multiply it. So 0.09 times 12 gives us 1.08. Be very careful writing that. Do not round that or change that. 1.08. Alright, so we've multiplied down. Our next step is to add across. So just on the second two rows, x plus y equals 12. 0.04x plus 0.12y equals 1.08. So we end up with two equations, just like we've been doing this whole chapter. So we have x plus y equals 12, and we have 0.04x plus 0.12y equals 1.08. You can work with the decimals or eliminate those decimals. We can get rid of the decimals by multiplying by 100. The first equation will stay the same, x plus y equals 12. The second equation will become 4x plus 12y equals 108. You can choose to eliminate x's or y's, but whichever one has the smaller coefficient is generally the easiest to work with. So we're going to multiply that the first equation by -4. That way it has an opposite sign with a matching value. That's going to give us -4x minus 4y equals negative 48. Positive 4x plus 12y equals 108. Stack and add. That's going to give us 8y equals, and then negative 48 plus 108 should give us, negative 48 plus 108 should give us 60. Yeah, just double checking there. And divide by 8. Y equals 60 divided by 8 is going to give us a decimal 7.5. That's weird that it's the same as the first example, but that's just a coincidence. Now we're going to take that answer and plug it back into one of our originals. The easiest original is the x plus y equals 12. So we have x. We know y is 7.5 and it equals 12. Then we'll subtract that 7.5 and x equals 4.5. So there's our second answer. Then you just have to remember which one you made what. So the 4% acid is our x value, and that's 4.5 liters. And our 12% acid is the 7.5 liters. So two answers, two different amounts. Mixing those together in that way will give you your goal. So that's with chemicals, acids, and salines and such. You can do the same thing with money. So these last two examples are out money. I don't know how familiar you are with investing money. I personally don't do much of that. So this is how you earn money, by investing it. So it says Robbie invested part of his $20,000 inheritance in a mutual fund. That's a type of investment that pays 7% simple interest annually. So every year he earns 7% of his money. And the rest in a certificate of deposit, which is a different way of saving money, that pays 9% simple interest annually. At the end of the year, Robbie has earned $1,550. So that's extra money on top of the $20,000 that he's earned. And we want to find the amount he invested at each rate. This is very similar setup to the chemicals. We're going to have thing 1 and thing 2. We're going to have our percentage, our amount. This time our amount is money instead of liters, but it's the same idea. The percentage this time is a rate instead of a strength, but again, same idea. And then you have your total, which is your mixture. So he's mixing his money in these two accounts. And then you have your goal or your total. In this case, it's a total. So there is no total percentage for these. It's just a total amount of money. So thing 1 is the mutual fund. Thing 2 is a certificate of deposit. The mutual fund is 7%, so that's 0.7. Then the certificate of deposit is 9%, so that's 0.09. The amount he invested is the part we don't know, so that's X and Y. We know the total amount he invested is $20,000. Make sure you have the right number of zeros there. And we do the same thing. We're going to multiply down here. So 0.07x. We're going to multiply down here. 0.09y. Now instead of multiplying down here, because we don't have anything to multiply by, that's where that earning 1,550 goes right there. So that number is already given to you. You don't have anything to multiply down for that one. Now we're going to add across. X plus y equals 20,000. 0.07x plus 0.09y equals the 1,550. So those are your two equations. We have x plus y equals 20,000. 0.07x plus 0.09y equals 1,550. If you want to kill those decimals, which most students do, it just makes it easier to work with. We can multiply that bottom equation by 100. Top equation still x plus y equals 20,000. Watch your zeros on these bigger problems. This is going to be 7x plus 9y. And then we have 1,550 times 100. So it's 155,000. So again, just watch your zeros. If they're missing a zero, can throw off the whole problem. From here, we're going to eliminate one of the variables. I'm going to use the x's just because that number is a little smaller. So I'm going to multiply that by -7. And we're going to get -7x minus 7y equals negative. Ooh, I'm going to run out of room for my zeros. Should be, let me just make sure of that. 1, 2, 3 times 7. Yeah, so it should be 140,000, and I'm sorry, I ran out of room there. And then the second equation will stay the same. 7x plus 9y equals 155,000. And we'll add those together. The x's cancel. We're going to get 2y equals, now we have -140,000 plus 155,000. So just double check your zeros here. Make sure commas can kind of help just to make sure you're counting your zeros correctly. So that should be 15000. Then we'll divide by 2. $7,500. So 7,500 in the first account, or sorry, the second account. And now we'll plug back in. I'm going to use the simpler of two equations here. So we have x plus 7,500 equals 20,000. Move that 7,500. 20,000 minus 7,500 gives us 12,500. So you've got the mutual fund amount, which is your X value, 12,500, and you have your certificate of deposit account, which is your Y value, 7,500. So same idea, bigger numbers. Now you still have to just be careful with your values. I'll give you plenty of space to work on these on your test so you don't get them mixed up. You can always use different colors to help keep things organized. Alright, last example. Go ahead and pause the video, try example 4, and then play it back to see how you did. It says Mrs. Leone won $25,000 from a scratch-off ticket. That would be nice. She put part of her winnings in an account that earns 9% simple interest and the rest in an account that earns 10% simple annual interest. At the end of the year, she earned $2,365. How much was invested in each account? So we're going to use our nice chart here to help us out. We've got the first account and the second account and our total. Remember, it's always going to go percentage and then amount and then total or mixture. It's called mixture, it just sounds funny when it comes to money. So the first account percentage is 0.09. The second account is 0.10. You don't have a total percentage for these. The amount is the part we don't know, X and Y. We know the total amount invested was $25,000. We're going to multiply down here. We're going to multiply down here, and they already gave us the total earnings, 2,365. Alright, so from there, if you can learn how to fill in the chart, the rest is pretty easy, and it just takes practice just like everything else. We're going to do X plus Y equals 25,000. 0.09X plus 0.10Y is the 2,365. So our two equations are X plus Y equals 25,000. 0.09X plus 0.10Y is 2,365. If you want to kill that decimal, you can. You can multiply that bottom equation by 100. That's going to give us X plus Y equals 2,500. And 9X plus 10Y is 2,36500. So again, just double check that. Commas can be your friend. Kind of help you find your values. Alright, now we're going to use the elimination method. Going to multiply the top equation by -9. And I keep choosing the X value. It doesn't really matter which one you choose. It's just generally that value is a little smaller, but it doesn't matter at all. So it'll be -9X minus 9Y equals, let's see, 25,000 times -9. And write this carefully, -225,000. And then the second equation stays the same, 9X plus 10Y is 2,36500. Now we're ready to stack and add. X's are going to cancel. -9Y plus 10Y is just Y. Work on this carefully. -225,000 plus 2,36500 is 11,500. And then we'll take that answer and we'll plug it into that original equation. I like the top one, it's a little easier to work with. So last but not least, X plus 11500 equals 25,000. We'll subtract that. We'll get X equals 25,000 minus 11,500. It is 13,500. And then on your homework, you just have to keep straight which one you made X and which one you made Y, which your chart will tell you which one's which. So the 9% account is the 13,500, and the 10% account was the 11,500. Together, that's the total of 25,000. Alright, so all these mixture problems, whether you're dealing with chemicals or money, the chart can be your best friend. This textbook does a really nice job of using that chart to organize all your information and then turning that chart into two equations that you can work to get your answer. Use your calculator, these numbers get big, and watch your zeros as you go along.